Thank you for your service not only to this committee, but to the whole General Assembly. Marvin Lee, John Gilbert, Reggie Seals, and Bill Riley. Thank you once again for being here this morning. We have pages with us this morning. When I call your name, if you would please stand up. Carolyn LaFone. Carolyn is sponsored by Speaker Moore. Welcome. Devon Toronto, sponsored by Representative Michael Ray. Welcome. And Austin Williams, who is also sponsored by Speaker Moore. Welcome. I hope you're enjoying your experience this week. We'll make a lot of new friends, learn how our government works, and I hope you'll come back to see us again. We have 3 bills to be heard this morning. The first bill to be heard will be House Bill 415, excuse me, Stop Addiction Frauds Ethics Act of 2023. Representative Reeder will be presenting the bill. Is Representative Chesser or Representative Baker here that are primary sponsors with you? If they'd like to stand with you, that's fine, or if not, the floor is yours to present your bill, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee. I want to speak to you just a few minutes about House Bill 415, which enacts laws preventing abuse of patients who suffer from substance use disorder. I suspect that all of us know someone or a family member who suffered from substance use disorder, and unfortunately the statistics on this disease are very bad and they're getting worse. From the pandemic, we know that there is a lot more people suffering. There are a lot of good treatment programs out there and providers across North Carolina who are dedicated to helping patients and families who suffer from this very difficult disorder to treat. There are several different types of treatment centers and durations and modalities that can be used for this disorder. Ethical programs take referrals and admissions from many sources, and they align the treatment with the most appropriate for that particular patient. These programs can actually be very expensive and sometimes challenging. Sadly, there's some providers and facilities who are unethically manipulate patients for financial gain. These providers misrepresent their programs, the duration, the methods that they use, the length of stay, and their success rates. Some of these programs, unfortunately, pay brokers to receive referrals who then get fees to actively recruit patients. Unconscionably, some of these brokers actually reintroduce a patient to their addiction in order to get the referral and a referral fee. So I think that we can all agree that this is reprehensible behavior. The bill has really 3 items. One is a truth in marketing, so that the facilities must accurately and honestly describe their program, the potential for success, and the methods that they use. The second part is violations if you violate these rules, and makes it a felony if you offer fees or anything of value for the referrals. This has been through Health Committee. I would hope that the committee would find this acceptable and vote it as favorable.
Thank you for that presentation. I would ask, are there any members of the committee that have any questions or comments concerning the proposed legislation? Seeing none, do I hear a motion? Representative Cotham, you are recognized for a motion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move for a favorable report on House Bill 415 with a referral to rules.
Thank you. That is the motion before the committee. Any discussion before we vote? Hearing none. I did not have anybody sign up from the public to speak. Therefore, all in favor of the bill say aye. Aye. All opposed say no. The ayes have it. The bill will receive a favorable report. Thank you, Representative Reeder. The next bill to be heard is House Bill 561, the North Carolina Coerced Debt Relief Act. This is a PCS that was sent out to the members last night. Without objections, properly before the committee to be heard. Representative Brown, you are recognized to present the bill, and if your co-primary sponsors, Representative Howard, Bradford, and Carney, want to stand with you, that's fine. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, members of the committee. Wanted to briefly discuss the North Carolina Coerced Debt Relief Act. This is a bill that will allow victims of domestic violence to receive, who have undergone financial abuse, financial coercion at the hands of their abuser, to be able to go to the collateral source and get that debt taken care of. It will be removed from collections, and it will also allow that financial institution, whoever held that debt, to get a court judgment to go after the abuser. This debt only applies to debts that were made as a hands of domestic violence through threat, coercion, and other types of abuse. They must have to show that first they went through the domestic violence process through the courts, and then after going through that process, they will have the opportunity to petition the court for the removal of this debt. To answer some of the common questions that we've received as we work through this bill, this bill does not apply to any secured debts. So it's not going to apply to a mortgage, it's not going to apply to a car loan or anything like that. It primarily applies to commercial loans, or commercial debt, credit card debts, and things like that. It also does not allow refunds. So if a domestic violence survivor pays off their debt and now they decide they want to go through this process, they're not able to get any of the money that they already paid. They're only able to get what debt still remains. And the last part is, I know some folks have asked about fraudulent claims. Under the technical reading of the bill, there is a recourse where if somebody is doing this process fraudulently, they're lying about the debt, they just wanted to get over, they're a bad faith actor, the financial institution has the mechanism at that time to go back and have a court action against that individual, that debtor, for not only the amount of the debt, but also for their cost and their attorney's fees. So this bill, we've worked really hard on it. We've got, I'd like to thank my co-sponsors on this, Representative Bradford, Representative Howard, and Representative Carney. We've talked about this bill and had it vetted with the Bankers Association. We've talked with this bill and had the support of over 18 different domestic violence support organizations, as well as the Center for Responsible Lending. So it's really been a collaborative effort from all sides and all spectrums. So with that, I will yield, Mr. Speaker, for any questions you may have.
Thank you for that presentation. Are there any questions or comments by any member of the committee?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Representative Bradford, you are recognized for a comment.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So I'm on this bill with Representative Brown and appreciate his leadership on it. We've had some just minor issues come up, and so we're committed to continue to work on those issues as it moves through the journey. And I just wanted to thank those that have reached out to us, and Representative Brown and I are committed to make those changes as we move along. Just wanted to go on record saying that. Thank you.
Well, thank you. I was aware of that, and I commend y'all for being willing to work with others to come up with a bill that everybody can hopefully agree to. Representative Arp?
One quick question.
Yes, sir. You're recognized for a question.
Does the technical aspect of this bill, does it assign the debt to a different person or a co-borrower, or how does the technical piece work? And, you know, just with, if you can explain this.
So it's not
Representative Brown, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So it's not a technical assignment of the debt. The way it's going to work is the debtor will petition the court, and they'll say that I've got a debt is at the hands of my abuser. They go through that process. That after they make that decision, the court makes that decision, the claimant, the financial institution, whoever it may be, will receive a court order for a judgment against the abuser for the amount that is whatever that debt was that was essentially forgiven from the abuse.
Does that answer the question?
Follow-up. One quick
Representative
follow-up.
Stevens?
One quick
Oh,
follow-up.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Follow-up. Yes, sir. You're recognized for a follow-up.
So is that is the judge at that time making the decision during that hearing or whatever? In other words, the defendant could defend themselves and say, hey, that's not true or something. Then the court decides that on an order based on the hearings and everything that they...
Correct. There's a provision in there where there are findings of fact that will be made during that hearing that if either party would like for that to happen, and that way the defendant will have the opportunity to defend themselves in that as well.
And then final follow, and if they don't...
One more follow-up.
And then if they don't show up, it's a default action that goes against their... But if it's a claim of fraud, the other person has to, the debtor, the one who holds the debt, you know, the bank or whatever, has to go to court to claim against the fraud aspect of it.
So I want to make sure I understand your question. You're saying that there is a claim of fraud by the debtor?
Well,
or
by the one who holds the debt.
Right. So if you're saying that somebody, if a defendant or a financial institution is saying that the one who holds the debt has committed fraud, is that what you're saying?
Right.
Yes, that would be something separate that they would have to go through and find a finding that way.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you.
Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you. And my question, I think, is going to sort of be a follow-up to Representative Arb's question. who are parties to the action to declare this a coerced debt? Is it going to be the alleged victim, the alleged abuser? And should the bank be notified to come on in and bring their evidence at the same time? Who are all the parties?
Representative Brown, you're recognized to respond.
Thank you, Mr. So the initial parties are going to be the abuser, who is the debtor, and then it will be the claimant, who will be whatever the bank is. So that's the initial parties that are there. The abuser is going to be a third party who is included in that, who will be noticed on that. So the action is the abused will go and initiate the action against technically against the claimant for their debt. And then once that happens, the court will make a finding. They will notify the third-party abuser, who will also be able to present evidence that way as well. And technically there'll be 2 orders issued. One order will be for the abuser, saying that their debt has been removed from their record, they will not be in collections anymore. And the second order will be an order giving the financial institution or the claimant the ability to execute and collect that debt against the abuser.
Follow up.
Yes, ma'am, you're recognized.
Would it be a more efficient process to have all 3 of them in the same lawsuit?
So technically they are on the same lawsuit. So they technically are on the same lawsuit, but they're not. It's technically a third-party defendant. That's what we've talked to the administrative office of courts, and that's the way it's seen to be the most clear and the most plain.
Representative Austin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. A motion at the appropriate time.
Yes, ma'am. Hold that thought. Any other questions or comments by any member of the committee? Seeing none, I had no one sign up to speak on the bill. Representative Alton, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move for a favorable report for the PCS to House Bill 561, unfavorable to the original with a referral to rules.
Thank you, ma'am. That's the motion before us. Any discussion before we vote? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye. All opposed, say no. The ayes have it. Receive a favorable report. Thank you, Representative Brown.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee.
The last bill to be heard today is House Bill 574, Fairness in Women's Sports Act. The primary sponsors that are here today are Representative Balcom, Representative Gillespie, Representative Paré, and Representative Kristen Baker. Representative Balcom will be presenting the bill. And before we get into this, I just want to say that I asked for